listening to Party Time, My Golf Story with Kevin Walsh and whatever special guest he has today. You can check me out on episode 9 of the podcast. Today I'm wearing Grayson clothes while I'm out practicing because I believe in look good, play good. And follow me on Instagram, Sophia Warren Golf, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
It's Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers. And the golf real estate pros Gene Walsh and Vince Vizzacaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at suncoastdreams.com. Now here's your host, Kevin Walsh.
Hey everyone, welcome to the program. I'm really excited about our guest today. It's Earl Wright. I'm Earl Wright, CNN. You remember the voice and the face, but you may not know all the backstories, how he got his start in television broadcasting and in sports, where he went, when he went away from the industry, and what he's doing now. What he's doing now, he's a professional caddy. He is right up the alley of the people that we want to talk about on this podcast, Party Time, My Golf Story, because his stories are interesting. He makes himself vulnerable. He's been humbled by life, as we all have, and is not shy talking about it. He's just a fascinating guy. And in a lot of ways, I think there's probably nobody that can relate better to my life as it exists right now as a professional caddy, former broadcaster, than Earl Wright. So we'll get into it with Van in just a little bit. I wanted to make some comments about the recent Korn Ferry Tour event, the Lecom Suncoast Classic, won by Neil Shipley, 18 under par, 5-hole playoff, won with a birdie. Keep an eye on this kid. He's going to be good. He's a big kid, plays a nice power fade. He's really good with fans, taking pictures and everything afterwards. Has the long hair, so you really can't miss him. And what a great week that was for us here at Lakewood National, where this broadcast originates from. So a lot of my neighbors, had some beverages with them, bummed some beverages because I ran out of party when I was on the golf course. Saw some people with party koozies. Just a really, really good time. And I'm glad we previewed the event with Justin Christich in the previous episode. He did a fantastic job. Was out on the course. Paul Azinger said some really nice remarks at the completion of the tournament. It was just a fantastic week, and I can't wait for the guys to get back next year.
Best part of the show, Gene Walsh, once again, crashing the podcast. Are you here for me or for Van Earl? Be honest.
Well, Van Earl, of course, but I'm here for moral support for you.
Okay, sounds good. Gene Walsh, part of the Vince Vizzacaro team, suncoastdreams.com. So we're coming off a really cool week here. We had the Lecom Suncoast Classic, 7th edition of it. And how would you say the vibe was around the neighborhood during the event?
Oh, there's definitely a lot of people from all over who get to see our neighborhood. So it's wonderful. And everybody seems happy. You know, people are just enjoying themselves, watching the players, watching golf, just enjoying the neighborhood, all of the amenities. It was really wonderful.
Your newest edition team member, Samantha, our daughter, she had a blast, didn't she?
She did. Oh my God. She loved watching the players.
Well, I took a walk around and with my phone, I took some video and some pictures. You want to have a look?
I'd love to see them. Yes.
So tell me this, does an event like the Lecom Suncoast Classic, does it help sales?
I think it does because it draws people to the neighborhood. They get to see the wonderful courses. We have top courses in the state, and they see how beautifully they are maintained and how players get to enjoy them. So it really showcases the playing and the whole neighborhood.
I actually had a player and his dad who were tooling around on a golf cart. I was out on the front lawn playing with the dog, and they pulled over and they started talking real estate and asked about prices. How are prices around the neighborhood?
It's definitely shifting to a buyer's market for the condos. Single family homes, still a balanced market, but there's plenty of opportunity here. So if you're interested, come on and take a look.
You got any little nuggets in your pocket?
Oh, we had this great condo that we just listed last week. We were able to do photography. It's on the 9th hole of Commanders. So we were able to get the photos of the Corn Ferry stage set up right next to the clubhouse. So it's very, very cool. So you'll have to check it out on our website, suncoastdreams.com.
That's cool. And that is a great location because you're right on top of everything. And the 9th hole on the Commander course is actually 18. They switched to the 9. So that's exactly what it is. Gene Walsh, suncoastdreams.com. Thanks, honey.
Thanks,
Back
Kevin.
next year. Big thanks to our title sponsor, Party Drinks. If you're looking for a drink alternative on the golf course and you've had your fill of beer, don't drink beer on the golf course. It makes you feel fat, and it's hard to make a good backswing when you're feeling fat. Or if you're drinking something else, like something for a time of day or a crustacean in the ocean, try a real drink. Try Party. Made by us, handcrafted from the beginning for golfers by golfers. And by the way, if you're in the golf industry and you're not serving Party, you should. And Paradise Craft Distributors is the exclusive distributor of Party in the state of Florida. And if your dream is to live in a golf resort community like Lakewood National Golf Club, there's nobody better than the golf real estate pros of Gene Walsh and Vince Visicaro from suncoastdreams.com, a division of fine properties in the greater Sarasota area. Folks, it's a good time to buy. There's inventory at Lakewood National Golf Club. If we're good enough for the Corn Ferry Tour, probably good enough for you. And the market has softened a bit. And I know Gene and Vince have a couple special properties in their pocket. So don't hold off on the dream. Get the dream going and reach out to Vince and Gene at suncoastdreams.com. All right, let's bring Van Earl Wright into the conversation. Man, I am so glad to talk. How's life, Van? Where are you joining us from?
Joining you from Hobe Sound, Florida, down on the southeast coast of the Sunshine State.
Yes. All right. So I already messed up once. You told me, make sure you don't call me Van. Call me Van Earl. Because your mom insists on it.
Well, it was her dad's name. And my dad was having a discussion with my mom and said, okay, so your family is represented. What about mine? So that's why they gave me the first name, a double name of Van Earl, and the middle name of Bishop, representing my dad's side of the family. Wow. Van Earl Bishop Wright. How about that?
It's fantastic. That is so Southern, by the way.
So Southern.
You
so
are.
Southern.
Yeah. Where are you from?
Grew up in Atlanta.
Yeah. What was that like?
Grew up in the Buckhead area of Atlanta, right next to Brookhaven, which is home of Peachtree Golf Club. And it was a great city to grow up in. Really thoroughly enjoyed and proud to say Atlanta was my hometown when I went off to college at South Carolina. But it's really changed now. It's so big. And I don't miss the Atlanta that I left when I started caddying.
I guess. And you're talking about a transition in your life, but it sounds like in some ways you're going back to your roots and your love of golf.
Yes.
Where does your golf beginnings begin? Take me back.
Really watching my dad, and he used to have some guy weekends with his brother-in-law and a couple of their friends, and they'd go up to Mount Mitchell in North Carolina. And it was always a fun excursion I would hear stories about. And Dad was a big fan of Bobby Jones growing up in Georgia, in Macon. And when he went to South Carolina for college to play football for the Gamecocks, he heard about this new tournament going on in Augusta, about an hour away. hosted by Bobby Jones, where they were begging people to pay $3 a day to come check out their new Masters golf tournament. And that's when he started going, and his love of the Masters and Jones and golf. I was watching that, and that was really the first memory that I have of being a golf fan, because I was just watching through my dad's experience.
When did you actually start playing, and how did that begin?
I bugged Dad all the time because our cousins in Orangeburg, South Carolina, in a small town, they belonged to the Orangeburg Country Club. And I was like, Dad, why don't we join a country club here so I can play a lot of golf, and not just in Orangeburg or when we go down to the beach? And Georgie Boy's answer was, I don't like all those country club snob guys. That's not for me. Well, probably in reality, he didn't have enough money to join the country club, but that's all right too. And I remember watching and going with my older brothers and older cousins when we would visit them in Orangeburg and go out to the Orangeburg Country Club, and then hear about Dad, tell stories about his golf trips and learning about the Masters. And I was very interested because it seemed to be very fun for a 9-year-old to watch the older folks have so much fun. So that was my first attraction.
I imagine probably doing something that your dad did and spending time with your dad meant something as well.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. And I was always bugging Dad, let's go out to the par 3 course up there in Doraville or something like that. But we would go out to the Atlanta City courses, Chastain and Bobby Jones and stuff like that. And really watching on television with Dad was a lot of fun. Watching sports with Dad was a whole lot of fun. And it was nice to be the youngest of 4 because I had Mom and Dad to myself for those, I guess, 4 years of high school. And that was a real treat.
Oh, you're the baby of the family, huh?
I am. Youngest of 4.
And what was that like?
It was a very happy childhood, very blessed to say that. We grew up on a cul-de-sac, house on a cul-de-sac, so there was not much traffic. It was on a hill. We'd ride our bikes. We built a ramp where we would haul butt down the hill on bicycles and try to be like Evel Knievel, jumping off that ramp with no helmets. Lucky we all survived, riding bicycles to school. And it was a great neighborhood, kind of a new neighborhood when we moved in. And it was a really happy childhood, very blessed for that. And Beth and George set the tone. And it was great to have 3 older siblings where we all got along. Very blessed.
Yeah, it sounds like Van Earl Wright, legendary broadcaster, is our guest here on Part T Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by the Golf Real Estate Pros of Gene Walsh and Vince Vizicaro from suncoaststreams.com, and Part T Drinks. If you're looking for a drink alternative on the golf course, try a Part T. Your mom worked in television, but not as you did. Tell me the story about her and what she did at the local TV station.
Well, Mom and Dad made a promise and a pledge to themselves to pay for our college tuition. And older brother Bryant went off to Carolina. Older sister Alice went off to Carolina. And then Beth and George started realizing that out-of-state tuition for South Carolina was a little bit more expensive than they planned. So they knuckled down and got it done with that. And it was great to be able to follow in the footsteps of my older siblings on to South Carolina. But when times got a little tight, Mom decided that she needed to go to work, and she was always fascinated with the broadcasting industry. And she went and started as a secretary at WSV Television, which was the first television station in the South and the first radio station as well. And so she started as a secretary, and then she moved over to giving tours. You know, a lot of schools would take field trips down to the television station. That was before everything was available to see. And it was kind of a magical thing. And so she started giving tours, and she worked at WSB for a total of 36 years. And she loved every minute of it because it put her in the middle of the action, and she loved that.
Well, did that kind of spark a love of TV for you? Was your ticket into TV maybe a personal tour from Mom?
I think so. First time that I remember being fascinated with the idea of broadcasting was reading an article in the old TV Guide magazine about what a reporter does to get a story on the air. And that's my first memory. And then, of course, watching Mom and going down to visit her or stay with her after school and walking around that great institution of WSB television. So, yeah, that planted the seed. And then when I went off to college, I started at the WSC radio station. And then the folks in the College of Journalism said you need to get an internship. And this newfangled crazy cable network called CNN was starting in Atlanta, just 2 years old. So I went down there in May of 82 and got a summer internship. And when I went down there, it blew me away. I was like, these guys are getting paid to watch sports and talk about sports.
And that planted the seed for you. But where did you? And you know this. So now we're doing a little inside baseball, but we'll bring our listeners and our viewers up to speed. Everybody wants to know, well, how did you get your start? What was your first job? So what was your first job? Paid job?
Yeah. Well, I made $148 an hour as an intern for CNN Sports, and I do want to tell the story that when I walked in for my interview for the internship into the sports department at CNN, that was 2 years old at that time. This was before sports bars. And I looked up on the wall and there were 8 televisions going, all showing a game. And I was dumbstruck. I was in awe. And watching the anchors, Fred Hickman, Nick Charles, Craig Sager, Jim Huber, all those guys just giving each other a hard time, typing their scripts. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. So that was my real first job. And yes, it was. I did get paid less than $2 an hour. And then after that, I talked my way into a runner's job for ABC Sports at the LA Olympics in 84. Mm-hmm. So I got my college diploma and drove across the country to work for ABC at the LA Summer Olympics. And then I got a job at the Beverly Hills Hotel because I thought I was going to be a California kid for about a year and take a year off after college. And that lasted about 3 months because I was dying to get into television. So I went back home and finally got a job at a station in Charleston, South Carolina. And that's where it took off from there.
Well, it was a fast rise. And when you got on CNN, I mean, it grew so fast. And I remember seeing you and Nick Charles and Fred Hickman and others. We'll get into the Kevin Frazier story and the NASCAR stuff. But what I really liked about you, you were good. I mean, you were solid. You had a good handle on the copy. You told the story well. You had a nice presence, incredible energy. And you took chances, man. You took chances on the air, which when you're a young broadcaster, sometimes you just want to get the plane down safely.
Right.
I only saw you when it was the full Van Earl. Did you have to slowly work your way up to that, or you were just balls to the wall right away?
Well, 5 years of small town television, working as a weekend sports guy where you're in the studio doing the sportscast at 6 and 11 and getting out and reporting. I finally was able to find a groove and feel confident in my abilities. And fortunately enough, well, during those 5 years of small town, I was sending tapes back to CNN Sports all the time, begging them to hire me because that was my goal. That's kind of where I started, and that's where I wanted to be. And they finally called and offered me that headline sports job, which is voiceover. And, after a few months, when you're working the late shift, and you're waiting for those West Coast games to end around 1 or 2 a.m. There's 4 or 5 people around, and ignorant me, I'm like, well, nobody's watching this. They replay it in the morning, Van Earl. Yeah, they're watching. And then started getting some positive feedback from my coworkers. And then some other reporters, folks who covered broadcasting and television, they called up or they mentioned me in one of their columns. And I remember the first time I saw in the Washington Post, somebody was mentioning me, like, you got to check this guy out. I was stunned. I'm like, oh, God, I guess people are watching.
Well, I imagine the feedback from your colleagues saying, hey, that's good. Keep doing it. Your signature calls that I remember, I'm in all right. CNN. Headline
sports.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's beat at the dish.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite. Yeah. You know, you're in an audio booth with 2 tape machines, and the headline sports guys, you're editing your own 2-minute report, and you're taking highlights from the game and putting them there on the air tape. And you have a production assistant with you helping with scoreboards. And I'm just kind of in the booth and I'm having fun because I always enjoyed the intensity of sports and always enjoyed the excitement. And when folks are soaring and slamming and rocking the rims, it just kind of came out. It wasn't a plan. It just kind of developed. And a lot of people don't believe that, but that is the truth. I did not have a plan going in that this is what I was going to do. But
no, I believe you.
I tried a few things and people gave me good feedback. I'm like, let's keep doing it.
It just sounds like the inner performer that was always there finally had the guts to really put it out there. And am I right? Is that, I mean, what were you like?
Sure, I had the guts. I just was fortunate and to find something that was appealing.
What were you like in school? Were you a pain in the ass to your teachers, or were you a good schoolboy?
I was very well mannered and clean living guy, and didn't drink beer in college and didn't drink much in college. I'm sorry, didn't drink in high school and did not drink much in college. And kind of well behaved and didn't cause a lot of trouble. Didn't get sent down to the principal's office. And so I don't know. Yeah, like you said, that inner performer self kind of came out in broadcasting.
Well, you got yourself in a little bit of trouble a couple of times. How many times did you get called into the boss's office after you really pushed the envelope and he just said, Van Earl, you went too far?
Well, it was by accident. When we would leave we would leave 2 overnight reports after all the games are done, and they would air throughout the night and then air through the morning. And then when the day shift guys came in, they would be fresh reports. So one Sunday night, the rest of the crew, the skeleton crew, they were done, and I was finishing up. And at Headline Sports, we would leave 2 overnight reports. And as a shortcut, we would just record parts of those reports, like the hockey segment or the NBA segment, onto the other one in a different order. And that's how they would be different. Well, while I was recording, I didn't realize my microphone was on. And those coworkers were giving me a hard time, looking at me through the sliding glass window, say, hey, we're out of here and you're a sucker and you're still working. And I yelled back at them. Well, the next day, the boss called me in and said, sat in his office with the big boss, and he played, here's your 220 report. Sunday night in the NHL, the LA Kings ate me, is what I yelled out at my coworkers. And I didn't bother to check the tape before I put them in circulation. Oh, my gosh. The big boss, Bill McPhail, he had to leave the room because he was laughing so much. And his second in command had to chew me out and threaten me with my life. I thought I was done, but thankfully I wasn't.
Well, because you were good, and you probably had good bosses that saw the potential, and it was just A learning lesson. We've all done it.
No doubt
Hot
about
mics.
that.
And well, the difference is yours got out on the air. What a lot of people that are not in broadcasting don't know is they're actually recording another copy in the control room. So everything you say, the assumption is if there's a microphone around, keep it clean. Don't say anything bad about anybody because there will be a record of it and they'll be held to pay. But, that makes for good stories like later because we've all done it. I've done it multiple times. I mean, there's nothing like really making an ass out of yourself on the air because so many people see it.
That's right.
And once you do it enough times, you just got to let it go. And you realize sometimes your greatest mistakes or your gaffes on air, that's what people remember.
Yeah.
And if they're watching you or listening to you, they must like you. So they're very forgiving for your shortcomings, so long as your heart is good and you're not really cruel to people.
That's putting a pretty rosy picture. I got plenty of hate mail when I was at CNN Sports because CNN then was a pillar of journalism. Bernard Shaw and all those folks, and that was Ted Turner's statement to the crew. We are going to be journalists and we're going to we're going to present news 24 hours a day. So whatever shift you're working, you'll be able to see what's going on in the world. And they did not think that I was practicing journalism. A lot of folks would write in and complain that I was trying to make it all about me, but that was not my intent. My intent was just because I love the highlights. I love sports, and I just brought energy to it. And then it got a reaction.
Well, it got a reaction from me too, but it was a positive one because I could feel your passion. And then that just made me as amped up to watch as well.
Appreciate that.
I want to get into we're going to go to a part two. I want to just take a break on this. I want to get into the personal. I definitely want to get into the golf, into the caddying, some of the personal struggles, your struggles with sobriety and everything, which you've given me permission to open that door up. But just for our listeners and everything, we're going to call it a break here, and we're going to have part two, which is going to air in a week. So, Van, thank you for your time right now. Just stay with me. We're going to do some of the housekeeping and editing stuff. And I also want to give a big thanks to our title sponsor, Party Drinks. If you're looking for a drink alternative on the golf course, try a Party. And if your dream is to live in a golf real estate community like Lakewood National Golf Club, where this originates from, then Gene Walsh and Vince Visicaro from suncoastdreams.com. They're your people. Get you all set up. It's a good time to buy. For Van Earl Wright, I'm Kevin Walsh. We'll see you again next time on Party Time, My Golf Story.